Hello and welcome to the Public Global. I am Ajay Prakash. In our society here in India, in the last 12 years, I have seen two very distinctive behavioral changes. The first one is related to misinformation and disinformation. How misinformation has been gradually increasing and affecting the lives of all of us. And you can imagine if adult people in the country can fall prey to disinformation, then the life of our children is going to be very, very tough. The second thing which I want to discuss is how all of us have started to accept corruption as a way of life. Today, when a Vinod Tavade gets caught with a bag full of money, there's hardly any hue and cry. Maybe a breaking news for half a day, and then everyone forgets about it. And many people, like one of my friends, when I told him about this incident, the answer was, "Oh, don't worry, everyone in India is corrupt." And whenever there's a corruption case involving politicians or bureaucrats, it's the primary job of the media to bring those stories to the public. If the media doesn't do its job, the public will never come to know how corrupt our bureaucracy or politicians are. As I see it, the first one is the trust on news channels. In the good old days, we only had Doordarshan, and whatever the newsreader would say, we would believe it. And probably now and then we would go to the our transistor or radio sets and hear All India Radio. But we never had that feeling that the news could be wrong. However, what has changed, and especially during the last 10 years of the Modi regime, our trust on news coming out of whether it's social media channels, YouTube, or even on the WhatsApp group. The belief on news has gone down, our trust has gone down. We never believe that what we are hearing would be correct unless we try to verify it. And here I'm leaving aside the Bhakt friends whose only job is to believe the fake news and spread it without even giving a thought. And this is not without any reason. The World Economic Forum this year in January published a report titled Global Risks 2024. Disinformation Tops Global Risks 2024 as Environmental Threats Intensify. They say that misinformation and disinformation are biggest short-term risks, while extreme weather and critical change to Earth systems are the greatest long-term risk. According to this report, India has the dubious distinction of topping the list where misinformation and disinformation is the highest. You can see this map, and in the world, only one country is shown in red, and that is India. United States comes at sixth position, United Kingdom at 11, and Indonesia at number 18. The report further notes that whenever there's an election in India, the misinformation and disinformation campaigns increase. Presence of misinformation in the electoral process is seriously destabilizing the legitimacy of the newly elected governments. And if you have been following the Indian elections, this statement appears to be quite true. You may remember, forget anyone else, none other than our Prime Minister Modi had gone around the country saying all sorts of things which were totally baseless, misleading, and at times they were real lies. This is some data that all of you should be aware of. This graph shows what percentage of people in which age group are accessing the social media. Since mobile technology has become cheaper, these numbers are really going to increase in the future. 15 to 17-year-old, 76% of our kids use social media. 18 to 25, 78%, 26 to 35, 65%, and then the numbers drop. 36 to 45, 44%, 46 to 55, 29%, and 56 years and older, only 15%. Just observe the black line, which peaks in almost all the cases. These guys are on 6 to 9 social media platforms like Twitter with X, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and many others. And with this data in hand, the BJP was very quick to respond and take advantage of the situation. Since the bulk of the voters were in the first three groups, they were either voters or they would become voters in the next 4 to 5 years. So that was the target group for the BJP. And incidentally, this group's shifting habits of being online all the time and not going back to the old style of getting knowledge through newspapers, magazines, or books, the situation became ideal for spread of misinformation and disinformation. And that's how the BJP IT cell came up, and they started targeting this group. The situation became more worse when these group of people came from the villages or from underprivileged sections of our society. They had no means to verify the information and started believing in what was dished out to them. Not only did these guys believe in this information, they started to forward it to all their friends and relatives because technology prices kept dropping, internet data became so cheap, and mobile phones were available for less than 5,000 rupees. So this whole group of people, maybe about 20, 30 crores of them who keep voting for the BJP, are the people where intelligence was induced to them through misinformation and through use of technology. And therefore, the narratives such as Hinduism khatre mein hai, that is, is in danger in a country where the Hindu population is about 80%, everyone believed it. And not only believed it, they spread it around. And if you believe that this phenomena will go away soon, I suggest you think again. In my opinion, it's going to be around for a while, maybe 30, 20, 30, 40 years, because this generation which has started this, it will stay with them till they become very old or they exit out. I think Amit Shah was not wrong when he said that they are here to rule India for 50 years. He had his strategy already worked out. Now I come to the second part of today's episode. I believe that we Indians have started to accept corruption. It doesn't bother us anymore. The usual answer is, "Okay, it's all around. Everyone does it. So why bother?" Even if one is not corrupt, there is little he or she does to oppose corruption. This is how the world sees us as far as corruption is concerned. This data is from Transparency International, where they bring out a corruption index rank every year. Out of the 180 nations studied this year, India is ranked at 93. As you can see, there was a sudden jump in the corruption perception from last year when it was only 85. And from 2015 onward, this corruption rank has been steadily rising. The last time the corruption rank was over 90 was in 2012 2013 when UPA 2 was in power. Transparency International calls it the Corruption Perception Index. That means how the world views you. It may not exactly map onto the real situation of corruption within that country. One of my friends had forwarded this cartoon the other day, and I think it very aptly described the situation of corruption within the world. On the left side is Nixon. They are talking about the grand old party, the Republicans. On the left hand side, Nixon says, "I'm not a crook." On the right hand side, it's Trump who says, "I'm a crook, so what?" I think it's absolutely applicable in India. You can change the faces to any of our politicians or prime ministers over the years, and it will still hold good. I will now tell you a few stories right from Prime Minister Nehru's time to Indira Gandhi and to Modi's time. How the corruption perception has changed over the years. Let's start with Prime Minister Modi. Here's my list, which I think were the eight biggest scandals which happened during Modi's regime. First one was demonetization in 2016, totally unplanned, uncalled for, and never met the objectives which he had announced in public, but probably met the objectives which he had in mind. GST implementation, the way it was announced, middle of the night with a bell ringing in the parliament, just because Modi wanted to replicate something which Jawaharlal Nehru had done at time of independence. It only resulted in messing up the lives of lakhs of small traders. It could have been handled better. Rafael contract, don't want to get into that, so much has been said. Anil Ambani was brought in, HAL was thrown out, and the price negotiation, well, anyway, the Supreme Court says there was nothing wrong in it. Handling of the corona, much was desired from Modi, much more was desired from him. He was a prime minister. Millions of people were left hanging on the road in different cities when he announced a lockdown overnight. PM Cares Fund. It's a publicly owned fund, yet the public doesn't know about it. When you ask the NRTI, it says it's a private fund. So till date, we don't know what kind of fund it is, and it has not been audited for the last couple of years. Operation Lotus. It keeps happening now and then in various states. There are a lot of rumors how MLAs or MPs are bought. And electoral bonds. That's one of the biggest scandals of Modi's time, and that's probably one of the reasons why our rank in Transparency International's corruption index has increased. And lastly, the EVMs. Still fighting, still we want to know what's happening with the electronic voting machines. I'll talk of two cases of corruption supposedly done during Nehru's time. The first significant corruption case in independent India was called the Jeep Scandal of 1948. V.K. Krishna Menon, the then High Commissioner of India to Britain, disregarded convention and signed an agreement for the acquisition of 80 lakh worth of army jeeps from a British company. Despite the majority of money being paid up in advance, the army only received 155 jeeps. It was alleged that the then Prime Minister Nehru coerced the government to accept these jeeps. The second well publicized case during Nehru's time was the Mundra scandal, which came to light in 1957, which involved the life insurance corporation at that time purchasing ailing company shares for rupees 12.4 million without the consent of the investment committee. Calcutta based industrialist and stock speculator Haridas Mundra persuaded the government owned LIC to invest in shares of six of his struggling companies. T.T. Krishnamachari, the country's finance minister, resigned as a result of this Mundra affair, and according to allegations, LIC lost most of the money. Now, this case was pursued in Parliament against the liking of Nehru by none other than Feroz Gandhi. The last scandal today I'll talk about is during Indira Gandhi's time in May 1971 when a person named Rustam Sorab Nagarwala allegedly imitated Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's voice over phone, called the manager of State Bank of India branch in Delhi and asked for 60 lakh rupees. Nagarwala then went to the bank, took the money of the cashier and ran away. Later, Malhotra, who was the manager of the bank, went to Prime Minister's residence to get a receipt signed. but was informed that no such request was ever made. Malhotra informed the police Nagarwala was caught and he confessed to his crime. He was convicted in a 10-minute court trial. Nagarwala was put in 4 years jail and died while in custody. Whether it was Nehru or whether it was Indira Gandhi, scandals have happened. The only difference from then and now is whenever a case of corruption had emerged, the governments of the day took action. Sometimes it was strong action, sometimes it may have been a whitewash and nothing came through, like in the Bofors case, but then to show the public, action was always taken. Unlike today, when there are a large number of accusations against the Modi regime, never any action is taken. Even if you go to court and the court gives a verdict, it doesn't amount to any serious action against the regime. Thank you very much for watching.